Most people plant perennials expecting color all season long. They read the tag, they imagine a yard full of blooms from spring through fall, and then they watch it all go brown by July. Here's why that happens, and most gardeners never find out: not all long-blooming perennials work the same way. Some are genuinely non-stop. Some bloom in waves. And some just have one good flush and call it a year. If you pick the wrong ones, or plant them wrong, you'll get a few weeks of color and then months of waiting. But when you pick the right plants and understand what makes each one tick, your garden looks spectacular from May all the way into October. Today I'm going to walk you through 12 perennial flowers that can actually deliver that, covering every sun exposure, every soil type, and every corner of the country. And I'm going to give you the real biology behind why each one keeps blooming, not just the sales pitch on the nursery tag. 1. Roseanne Cranesbill, Geranium Gerwat, marketed as Roseanne. True continuous bloomer. Let's start with what many professional landscapers consider the single most reliable long-blooming perennial available, and it might surprise you, because it's not a showy showstopper. It's a hardy geranium. Roseanne was discovered in Somerset, England, in 1990. She was named the Perennial Plant of the Year in 2008, and she's held her spot at the top of the nursery charts ever since.
Why?
Because she genuinely does what most plants only promise to do. The reason she blooms so long comes down to her genetics. Roseanne is a sterile triploid hybrid, a cross between two different geranium species, and because of that genetic imbalance, she cannot produce seeds. No seeds means no shutdown signal. So from late May until October, that's 20 to 24 weeks of continuous violet-blue flowers with white centers. She just keeps going. She grows 12 to 24 inches tall with a trailing, ground cover style habit that's beautiful, cascading over walls or filling gaps between shrubs. She handles full sun to partial shade and adapts well to most soil types, though she does prefer consistent moisture and doesn't love being bone dry. Here's the one thing to know about managing her: by mid-August, her stems can look leggy and open. The fix is simple: shear the whole plant back to about 3 inches above the soil. She'll push a dense flush of fresh foliage and a new wave of autumn blooms within weeks. One more thing, she's highly resistant to deer and rabbits. That alone makes her a garden staple in much of the country. 2. Stella de Oro Daylily, Hemerocallis times hybrida, Stella de Oro. Re-blooming perennial, with near-continuous behavior. Almost everyone knows Stella de Oro. She's been in American gardens since 1975 and is still one of the best-selling perennials in the country. The question is, do most people get the most out of her? She's a sterile triploid daylily, 9 to 12 inches tall, with golden yellow flowers and deep gold throats. Like Roseanne, her sterility keeps the plant channeling energy into flower production rather than seed development. In northern climates, she'll bloom from late June through September. In the south, she has a strong primary flush followed by lighter rebloom every 3 to 4 weeks through summer. The catch: she's a daylily literally. Each individual blossom lasts exactly 1 day. So to keep her looking her best, you need to deadhead regularly, snap off those spent flowers so the plant doesn't waste energy on seed pods. Once all the buds on a scape are finished, cut that scape all the way back to the ground. That keeps the energy where you want it. She's incredibly adaptable, tolerates clay, sand, drought, urban pollution, and shade up to a point. She'll thrive in zones 3 through 10, though she does need a cold winter dormancy period to bloom at her best. Don't try to grow her in zone 9B or above in the deep south. Mild winters that can actually reduce her bloom production the following year. Since winning the Stout Silver Medal in 1985, the highest honor in the daylily world, Stella has been a staple in commercial and residential landscapes alike, used as a ground cover, border edger, and erosion control plant on slopes. 3. American Gold Rush, Black-Eyed Susan, Rudbeckia, American Gold Rush. Long season bloomer. Black-Eyed Susans are a classic, but the classic version has a problem. If you've ever planted the popular Goldsturm cultivar, you may have watched its leaves turn black and fall off by August. That septoria leaf spot, a fungal disease that devastates older Rudbeckia selections in hot, humid summers. American Gold Rush is the modern fix for that problem. Bred by Brent Horvath in Illinois and named the Perennial Plant Association's Plant of the Year in 2023, it's an interspecific hybrid with a specific structural advantage. Its foliage is covered in fine microscopic hairs that physically prevent fungal spores from settling on the leaf surface. The result is a plant that stays clean, green, and healthy all the way into October, even in humid Midwest summers that would destroy older selections. It blooms from July through October. 12 to 16 weeks of golden yellow flowers with distinctive reddish halos around their black-brown centers. It grows into a natural dome shape, 22 to 27 inches tall, without any pinching or pruning to maintain form. And it's exceptionally drought-tolerant once established. One note on care: don't over-fertilize this one. High nitrogen causes soft, floppy growth. Give it average, well-drained soil and full sun, and it takes care of itself. Bonus: leave the seed heads standing through winter. Goldfinches will thank you. 4. Walker's Low Catmint, Nepentatimes focinii, Walker's Low. True continuous bloomer. If you want the look of lavender without the fussiness, Walker's Low is your answer. It's a sterile catmint hybrid that produces wave after wave of soft lavender blue flowers on long, cascading stems from April through September, one of the longest bloom windows of any perennial on this list. The sterility is key again here. Because it cannot set seed, it just keeps producing buds. And unlike true lavender, it doesn't need perfect drainage or mild winters to survive. It's hardy in zones 3 through 8. Growing 24 to 36 inches tall and equally wide, it's a big, billowy presence in the garden. It's also one of the most pollinator-friendly plants you can grow. Bumblebees, honeybees, butterflies, and hummingbirds all flock to it. Here's the key management move. After the first major spring flush fades in late June, the stems look floppy and a bit tired. Take hedging shears and cut the whole plant back by 2/3. Within 10 to 14 days, you'll have a fresh, rounded mound of new foliage covered in new flowers. Do that once and it powers through until September. One critical requirement: Walker's Low needs poor, sandy, or gravelly soil with excellent drainage. Plant it in rich, organic soil and it'll flop open at the center and eventually rot. This is a plant that thrives on neglect in the right conditions. 5. Blue Fortune Giant Hyssop, Agastache, Blue Fortune. True continuous bloomer. Here's a plant that does 3 things most perennials can't do simultaneously. It blooms continuously from July until frost. It tolerates both summer heat and cold winters, and it's extraordinarily attractive to pollinators: hummingbirds, native bees, butterflies, all of them. Blue Fortune is a sterile interspecific hybrid, a cross between a North American native hyssop and an Asian species. Because it cannot set seed, its dense powder blue flower spikes remain colorful far longer than seed-producing plants. Unlike many of its relatives, it handles summer humidity in the south without rotting. It grows 24 to 36 inches tall with an upright habit, and its licorice anise-scented foliage makes it virtually immune to deer, rabbits, and groundhogs. That scent comes from natural aromatic compounds in the leaves, the same oils that make basil and mint repellent to many animals. One thing that makes Blue Fortune especially low maintenance: you don't need to deadhead it. Even after the flowers drop, the calyxes, the little cup-shaped structures that held the petals, remain colorful and structural. The plant looks good even past its prime bloom. It needs sharp drainage and average to poor soil. In heavy clay with standing winter moisture, the crown will rot. Plant it in a raised bed or gravel-amended soil, and it's one of the most reliable plants in this entire lineup. 6. May Night Meadow Sage, Salvia nemorosa, May Night. Reblooming perennial. May Night is one of those plants that makes you gasp the first time you see it in bloom. Dense, upright spikes of the deepest violet blue you'll find in a garden plant, rising 18 to 24 inches on dark purple stems in May and June. It's intense. It's a rebloomer. It won't flower continuously the way a sterile hybrid will. But with one management move, you can get 2 or even 3 strong flushes from it across the season. Once the primary spring bloom fades, shear the entire plant back by half. Within a few weeks, you'll see clean basal foliage and a fresh flush of flowers that carries into August. May Night is cold-hardy to Zone 3 and heat-tolerant into Zone 8. It's highly attractive to bumblebees, butterflies, and hummingbirds. The aromatic foliage makes it resistant to deer and most browsing animals. And like the other salvias, it wants well-drained, average to poor soil, not rich, fertilized beds that produce lush but floppy growth. It was selected as the Perennial Plant of the Year in 1997, one of the earliest and most enduring picks in that program's history. 30 years later, it's still a cornerstone of cottage gardens and pollinator borders across the country. 7. Goblin Blanket Flower, Gaillardia times grandiflora, goblin. Long season bloomer. If your garden has a hot, dry spot that nothing wants to grow in sandy soil, full sun, limited water, this is your plant. Goblin blanket flower was bred for exactly those conditions. A compact hybrid standing just 12 to 15 inches tall, Goblin produces some of the most vivid flowers in the perennial world, bright red petals tipped in yellow, surrounding a dark red center. It blooms from June through September or later, and it absolutely thrives in the dry west and southwest where many perennials struggle. The important thing to understand about Goblin is that it lives or dies by its drainage. In wet, heavy clay soils, particularly in the northeast and midwest, it can behave as a short-lived perennial or even an annual. But in lean, sandy, gravelly soils with excellent drainage, it's tenacious. This is a plant that grew up on the Great Plains. Rich soil and overwatering will rot it out in a season. Weekly deadheading keeps it producing through the season. And leave the pom-pom seed heads up through the winter. Goldfinches and other birds will feed on them, and you'll get natural reseeding that fills in any gaps. 8. Zagreb threadleaf coreopsis, Coreopsis verticillata, Zagreb. Long season bloomer. Zagreb is one of the most underrated perennials in American gardening. It's a native North American plant, or very close to one, that produces thousands of bright, non-fading golden yellow flowers over fine, needle-like foliage from June through September. That needle-like foliage isn't just pretty. It's one reason deer almost completely ignore it, and it's also part of why the plant handles heat and humidity better than almost any other yellow-flowering perennial. There's very little leaf surface area to wilt or scorch. It grows in a dense carpet 12 to 18 inches tall, and it's perfectly suited to zones 3 through 9. In the south and southwest, it keeps its color and stays disease-free through summer heat that causes other plants to burn out. Managing Zagreb is simple. Individual deadheading of its thousands of tiny flowers isn't practical. Instead, shear the whole plant back by half in mid to late summer with hedging shears. You'll get a strong second flush of flowers in late summer and autumn. Zagreb pairs beautifully with Walker's low catmint and Maynite sage, creating a layered long-season combination that covers the blue-violet-yellow color spectrum from spring all the way into fall. 9. Luxuriant fringed bleeding heart, Dicentra eximia, luxuriant. Long season rebloomer, shade specialist. Every plant we've covered so far wants sun. But not every garden has sun. Luxuriant fringed bleeding heart is the long-blooming answer for shade. Unlike the Asian bleeding heart, the popular one with arching stems and pink heart-shaped flowers that everyone loves in spring, Luxuriant doesn't go dormant by midsummer. It's a hybrid of two American native species, and it holds its beautiful blue-green, fern-like foliage from April through September. In cool, moist conditions, it produces cherry pink to rose pink flowers continuously through that entire window. In the hot south, it may slow down during peak summer heat, but it bounces back with a secondary flush as temperatures drop in late summer and fall. The key is moisture. This plant should never dry out completely. Consistent moisture and afternoon shade are its two non-negotiable requirements. For shaded woodland gardens, under deciduous trees, along north-facing foundations, this is one of the only truly long-blooming options you have. And it's worth noting, it attracts hummingbirds. Those tubular pink flowers are built for them. 10. Royal candles spiked speedwell, Veronica spicata, royal candles. Long season bloomer. Royal candles is a plant that earns its name. From June through August, it sends up dense, upright spikes of intense violet-blue flowers that look exactly like lit candles 12 to 18 inches tall, neat, precise, and architectural. It's a reliable border perennial for zones 3 through 8, attractive to butterflies, honeybees, and native bees. The foliage is dark green and lance-shaped, highly resistant to deer and rabbits. The management key here is deadheading the terminal flower spike, the main central spike, when it finishes. Doing so removes apical dominance and triggers the lateral branches to produce a series of smaller secondary spikes that extend the bloom season significantly. Without deadheading, the plant peaks and fades relatively quickly. Royal candles wants moist, organic-rich, well-drained soil, unlike many of the other plants on this list that prefer lean conditions. And in humid climates, space them well apart to prevent powdery mildew. It's more susceptible to fungal issues than most of the other selections here, but in good conditions, it's a standout. 11. Moonshine yarrow, Achillea moonshine. Long season bloomer. Moonshine yarrow is the workhorse of the dry garden. 12 to 24 inches tall, silvery gray aromatic foliage, and flat-topped clusters of bright canary yellow flowers from June through September. It tolerates heat, drought, salt, and wind better than almost anything else in this category. It's a sterile hybrid, which means it doesn't spread aggressively by underground rhizomes the way common native yarrow does. Moonshine stays exactly where you plant it, slowly expanding as a neat clump. The aromatic essential oils in its foliage make it intensely resistant to deer, rabbits, and virtually every browsing animal. Those same oils are why chewing insects generally leave it alone. It's one of the lowest pest plants you can grow. For xeriscaping, gravel gardens, coastal borders, or any location where drainage is sharp and fertility is low, moonshine excels. Don't put it in rich, organic soil. Don't mulch heavily around its crown. Give it poor ground, full sun, and minimal water, and it'll reward you with nearly 4 months of color. 12. Foothill penstemon, Penstemon heterophyllus, Margarita BOP. Long season bloomer, Western specialist. Last on the list and the most specialized. Margarita BOP is a California native, a selection of the foothill penstemon that's specifically adapted to hot, dry western climates. The flowers are extraordinary. Sky blue when they first open, they gradually fade to a rich purple as they age, so at any given moment you have both colors on the same plant simultaneously, a living two-tone display that runs from June all the way into October. It's a hummingbird magnet. Those long, tubular flowers are designed by evolution for the long bill of a hummingbird, and in the West, where hummingbirds are prevalent, this plant becomes a focal point. Margarita BOP is best suited for zones 6 through 10, and it's the most western-oriented plant on this list. In the Northeast and Midwest, it needs extremely well-drained soil to survive winter wet. Cold clay will kill it. But in California, the Southwest, and the Mountain West, it's one of the most spectacular long-blooming natives you can grow. One honest note, it's a relatively short-lived perennial, typically 3 to 4 years. Let it reseed naturally in late autumn by stopping deadheading then, and you'll have a self-sustaining colony. The other thing worth noticing, 11 of these 12 plants are highly resistant to deer and rabbits. Most of them do it through aromatic foliage, natural essential oils, and terpenes that smell wonderful to us and repellent to browsers. That's not an accident. Plants that bloom persistently over a long season have generally evolved strong chemical defenses, because blooms attract more attention from wildlife. The biggest takeaway from today is this: bloom duration isn't a single trait, it's a strategy. True continuous bloomers, long season bloomers, and rebloomers all get you to the same place, but they do it differently. Understanding that lets you choose the right plant for the right spot, manage it correctly, and actually get the garden you pictured when you bought that first flat of perennials. If you want to take the next step, you might be thinking about how to actually lay out these plants into a cohesive, layered design, something that sequences bloom times, balances heights and textures, and holds color from spring through fall. That's exactly what we cover in the next video: how to design a 4-season perennial border from the ground up, using plants exactly like these as your building blocks.